I'm Mark, 35M, and my story isn't about grand gestures or dramatic showdowns. It's about the quiet fight for my own narrative against people who tried to rewrite me out of existence. Asterisk asterisk. The office lights felt brighter than usual, or maybe it was just my eyes adjusting to this new kind of light. The light of a long-sought goal finally achieved. Partner. The word echoed in my head, sweet and foreign, but above all, liberating. Almost a decade. 10 years of sweat, of sacrificing late nights, rushed meals, and missed vacations. Now, it was here, within reach, the culmination of a boyhood dream scribbled on dusty attic maps. A wave of elation washed over me, warm and overwhelming. I felt like I was standing on a mountain peak, breathing in the crisp air of freedom and accomplishment. But then, like a sudden cloud eclipsing the sun, a thought flickered, bringing with it a tiny chill. A celebratory dinner, with colleagues, and Marla, her name, a high-pitched, dramatic note, always demanded attention. I loved Marla, I really did. She was smart, sharp, with her own burning ambitions. In our 2 years together, I'd seen so many wonderful sides of her. A dazzling smile that could light up a room, brilliant insights at work, and a surprising softness beneath her formidable exterior. But in those same 2 years, I'd learned a harsh truth, an unspoken rule that had shadowed my life for far too long. There was only enough spotlight for one person on the stage, and usually it wasn't me. I remembered the last time I'd received recognition at work, the Employee of the Year award. It was a smaller accolade than this, but still significant to me at the time. That night, instead of being my moment, it became Marla's stage. I recalled every detail. The forced smiles from my colleagues as Marla, with a perpetually thoughtful yet self-important expression, recounted how she'd turned down a major promotion to prioritize her mental health. She brought it up all night long, weaving it into every conversation. Every compliment meant for me, every congratulation, Marla skillfully rerouted back to her story, to her brave sacrifice, to her choosing personal well-being over corporate ladder climbing. I watched the awkward glances exchanged between my coworkers, feeling like an outsider at my own party. The small trophy on the table, meant to symbolize my hard work, suddenly seemed pointless, a forgotten prop. In that moment, all I wanted was to disappear, to pull Marla aside and ask her why. But I didn't. I just kept a strained smile on my face and let her continue to shine. The sweetness of victory that night dissolved, leaving only the bitter taste of disappointment and the familiar ache of being overshadowed. This wasn't some isolated incident. This spotlight hijacking was a well-worn path in my life, a wound festering since childhood. It began in the silent corners of my own home, a desperate scramble for acknowledgement. My mother, a woman of delicate beauty and even more delicate constitution, always needed tending to. My father, consumed by his work, was often a distant figure, leaving the emotional heavy lifting to me. And then there was Lily, my younger sister, frail, sickly, and utterly captivating. She was the undisputed center of the family universe. When Lily cried, the world stopped. My mother would rush to her side, a flurry of comforting words and embraces. Me, when I cried, I was told I was being dramatic. Goodness, this child and her dramatics was a constant refrain from my mother. Lily was the baby, all soft curls and even softer stories, deserving of endless adoration. I, on the other hand, was the capable one, the big helper. My capabilities, my independence were seen as virtues, yet they simultaneously pushed me further into the background. By the age of 10, I could cook 3 meals from scratch. By 12, I was walking Lily to preschool, tying her untied laces, braiding her unruly hair because Mom wasn't good at those things. I was the one holding the diaper bag, reminding Dad not to leave the stove on. I was the silent foundation, the quiet backdrop to our family portrait. Even our birthdays underscored this unspoken hierarchy. Lily's were themed extravaganzas. Unicorns, dolphins, 1 year even a rented pony. Mine? A sheet cake from the freezer aisle, sometimes 2 days late. I used to think I'd done something wrong, that maybe I just wasn't lovable in the same way. Only Grandma Eloise never made me wonder. She lived 3 blocks away in a small, blue house with a cracked porch swing and an always full cookie jar. She didn't have much, but what she did have, she shared without drama. Books, stories, and her precious time. She taught me how to balance a checkbook before I hit high school, how to fix a leaky faucet, and, more importantly, how to breathe when it felt like no one saw me. Then she got sick. Lung cancer, slow and mean. I was 16. Mom couldn't handle hospitals and Dad worked late. So I went. Every day. I changed her bedding, learned her medication schedule by heart, sat through endless appointments. Lily visited once, sat in a corner, posted a photo of her tear-streaked face, because of the tragedy, of course, and then left early. But when Grandma passed, I was the one who found her will, tucked into a copy of Little Women of all places. She left her house to me, her car, a small savings account, and a note. "You were the one who stayed," it read. "Not because you had to, but because you saw me." It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was the first time someone had chosen me, out loud. At the funeral, people whispered. My mother looked like she'd swallowed vinegar. Lily, in white lace and dramatic eyeliner, barely made eye contact. Later that week, Lily pulled me aside. "I know you got the house," she said, flipping her hair the way Mom did when she was cornered. "But I'm kind of stuck. Rent's a mess. Could I crash for a bit?" She moved in that weekend. Stayed 6 months. Never paid rent. Used my shampoo, my groceries, my car when I wasn't looking. When she left, she didn't say thank you. Just vanished. 3 years later, she was the one telling people I had taken advantage of Grandma. She called it weird that I'd inherited everything. Said I manipulated an old woman for property. I never corrected her. Never confronted her. Because by then, I understood something even colder than silence. They weren't forgetting me. They were rewriting me. The quiet engine of change and the alchemist of silence. I had saved slowly, meticulously, one consulting gig at a time. I said yes to the offers no one else wanted. Holiday shifts, curriculum audits, late-night Zoom calls with irritated donors. It was quiet work, but it paid. And in 4 years, I'd saved enough to start something that truly felt like mine. A nonprofit called Third Circle Education. We offered life skills workshops for teen girls aging out of foster care. How to read a lease, how to spot a predatory loan, how to write a resume without lying. They came in guarded, left taller. And when people asked what inspired it, I never said my family. But I always thought of Grandma Eloise, and how the people who need the most help often learn to ask the least. Then came the article. A local reporter, quiet, thoughtful, had sat through one of our sessions. She wrote a piece called me A Quiet Engine of Change. The headline was shared more times than I expected. It reached old classmates, former professors, even my parents. 2 weeks later, I noticed I'd been removed from Lily's Instagram entirely. Not just blocked, erased. Family wedding photos cropped. Childhood pictures reposted. Captions edited. Just me and my guardian angels. She wrote under a photo where I had once stood between her and Mom. At first, I thought it was an algorithm thing, a glitch. But then I saw the old photo from my college graduation, the one I'd framed for Dad. In the new version, I wasn't in it. Someone had physically cut me out. I didn't even know people still did that. Scissors, tape, new frame, no caption. Just a photo hanging in the background of Lily's kitchen. In a video tour she posted when she moved into her dream home. I recognized the frame. I bought it. I didn't cry, but I stared at that empty space longer than I should have. And I wondered, when they rewrote the story, did they ever stop to ask who paid for the first chapter? It was a Tuesday afternoon. Rain on the windows, a cold leftover sandwich on my desk. I was editing grant proposals when the knock came. 3 firm taps, then quiet. I wasn't expecting anyone. Most people called first or texted or didn't come at all. When I opened the door, they were standing there. My mother, my sister, and a man I'd never seen before, mid-40s, nice coat, wedding band. Lily's new husband, I would learn later. They looked rehearsed. Hair perfect, clothes neat, smiles forced. "Rachel," Mom said, her voice half breathy, half familiar. As a family, we thought it was time. Time for what? They didn't ask to come in. They just did. Brushed past me like it was still their right. I watched them settle into my living room. Lily curled into the corner of my couch like she used to in high school, except now in heels, full makeup, like a woman playing a girl she barely remembered being. Her husband said nothing, just nodded politely like he'd been told to stay out of it. Mom started with compliments. How proud she was, how she'd always known I'd do something meaningful, how she showed the article to some people at church. Then came the ask. Lily and her husband had started a business. Real estate marketing. It had promise, she said, but they needed startup capital. The bank wouldn't approve the full loan amount without a cosigner. Someone reputable. Someone with a proven record of stability. They wanted me to back them on paper just for a year, maybe less. I know things were tense for a while, Mom added, eyes wide. But family finds its way back, right? Lily didn't speak. She looked down at her hands the way she used to before a lie. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I stood there, watching them sit on my couch. A couch I bought in a home I built, asking for trust they'd never earned, with voices that had once called me ungrateful. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, brought it to the coffee table. Set it down. Didn't speak. Lily finally looked up. I just thought you'd understand, she whispered. Her voice cracked, but her mascara didn't. I thought about saying it, about listing every time she hadn't understood me, every time she left, erased, rewrote. Instead, I just looked at the water and waited for it to go still. They didn't stay long, didn't finish the pitch, didn't finish the water. The door clicked shut behind them with the kind of quiet that feels heavier than a slam. And I stood there, in the silence they left, wondering, did they really think I wouldn't remember? The envelope this time wasn't certified. It was hand-delivered, thicker, colder. A civil complaint. They were suing me, my own family. The charge, unjust enrichment. They claimed I'd used undue influence to inherit Grandma Eloise's house and savings, that I'd manipulated her, isolated her, cut them out. That Lily had been the true heir, but I'd intervened. It read like a script, a fiction where I was the villain and Lily, the grieving granddaughter, was too kind to speak up until now. I sat with it for hours, didn't call anyone, didn't cry. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the folder I'd kept for 15 years. Medical records, handwritten notes, photos of me and Grandma in her garden, at her chemo sessions, opening Christmas cards I'd signed for her when her hands shook too much to hold a pen. And the will, notarized, filed, stamped by the county court on the day she died. I didn't need to defend myself, but I would. My lawyer was a former student of mine, Elena Ruiz. Smart, unshakable. She'd once written a dissertation on power dynamics in inheritance disputes. When I showed her the complaint, she didn't blink. We've seen this before, she said. But they made a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Elena smiled just barely. They submitted altered evidence. Lily had forged documents, emails supposedly from Grandma, notes that didn't match her handwriting, even a draft of a revised will that was dated 2 weeks after Grandma's death. They didn't even bother to check the hospice logs. Grandma had been unconscious by then. We didn't counterattack, just submitted proof point by point, quietly, firmly. When the deposition day came, Lily showed up in pearls and a black blazer, as if it were a family brunch. Mom sat beside her, pale but composed. I didn't speak much. I didn't need to. Elena did. Calm, methodical, with the precision of someone who had waited her whole career for a case that spoke for itself. Lily stumbled when asked about the timeline, changed her story, then changed it again. By noon, her lawyer requested a break. By 2 p.m., they asked to settle. Elena declined. She wanted it on record. 2 weeks later, the judge dismissed the case with prejudice, called it a malicious and frivolous attempt to distort documented history. In legal terms, it was a victory, but in family terms, there's no word for it. Mom never called. Dad didn't either, but someone forwarded me a screenshot Lily had posted. A story, a close-up of her tear-streaked face, captioned, Some people will do anything for money, even lie about their own blood. No names, but everyone knew. I turned off my phone for 3 days. When I turned it back on, there was one voicemail. From Lily. Her voice was tight, controlled. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. Mom won't speak to me. Our investors pulled out. We had to close the office. I needed you. Then silence. Not a request. Not an apology. Just a sentence. I needed you. As if needing someone once gave you the right to hurt them over and over. I didn't delete the voicemail, but I never listened to it again. Because by then, I understood the deepest truth of all. They hadn't turned against me because I failed them. They turned against me because I didn't. The second time they came, they didn't knock. They called. My father, of all people, after nearly 7 years of silence. His voice was clipped, not angry, just strained. Things got out of hand, he said. Your sister regrets a lot. So do we. The lawsuit, that was unfortunate. But we're family. And families survive worse. I didn't answer right away. I waited, let the silence do the sorting. Finally, he cleared his throat. We'd like to invite you to a gathering. Your cousin Grant is getting married. Big celebration. Lots of people. It'd mean something if you showed up. I almost laughed. Not out of cruelty, just at the absurdity of it. They wanted me there not for reconciliation. For optics. Because now my name meant something. The nonprofit had expanded. Third Circle was in 3 states. We'd partnered with a national women's leadership fund. My face had been on the cover of a regional magazine. From forgotten to forced, it said. They didn't want me. They wanted her. The version of me that made them look good by proximity. I declined. Politely. Briefly. A week later, Aunt Marla called. She'd always been kind in a distant, teacup-rattling way. Said she understood why I was hurt. Said what Lily did was inexcusable. Then, just as softly, but maybe it's time to let it go, sweetheart. People are watching. Weddings are about joy. Don't bring the past into it. That was the line. Don't bring the past into it. As if the past was a purse I could choose not to carry. As if they hadn't already spilled it across the room and walked away. I didn't respond. Didn't go. Didn't post. That Saturday, when the wedding photos flooded social media, sunlight, champagne, a rented garden, I stayed in. Lit a candle. Read one of Grandma's old paperbacks. And when the doorbell rang just after dusk, I looked through the peephole. It was Lily. Alone. No makeup. Hair back. Eyes red. She didn't say anything. Just stood there, waiting. I turned off the porch light and let the night answer for me. Lily never tried a third time. After that night on the porch, she didn't text, didn't call, didn't email some long apology asking for another chance. She disappeared into her world of curated reels and mid-morning yoga. And I stayed in mine. Not out of bitterness. Just clarity. I no longer needed to be seen by them. I only needed to stop being rewritten. The silence that followed wasn't loud. It was exact. It filled only the space they used to take up. No more, no less. When people asked old friends, former neighbors, the ones who never quite knew what happened, I kept it simple. They chose a version of me that was easier to delete. Sometimes they'd press, "What do you mean?" And I'd just say, "I was there. They just didn't want to see me." That always ended the conversation. No one had a reply for that. Because the truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to be proven or paraded. It just needs to be said once. I didn't write them off. I didn't post. Didn't burn photos or mail back old cards. I let it all stay where it was. In drawers, in old inboxes, in the quiet part of the house I no longer opened. Some memories don't need closure. Just boundaries. And that was enough. Last spring, I repainted the hallway. A soft gray. Clean. Calm. I took down the photos. All of them. Not in anger, just necessity. Dust had settled behind the frames. Time had moved ahead of them. But there was one I almost left. A candid shot of Grandma Eloise and me sitting on her porch swing with mismatched mugs of tea. No poses, no edits. Just presence. But when I lifted the frame, I noticed something behind it. tucked flat against the wall. A second photo, folded, torn at the edges. It was from my college graduation, the full version. Me in the center, arms around Lily and Mom, before they cut me out. Someone must have hidden it there. Maybe me, maybe not. I slid the torn photo from behind the glass. Didn't put it back. Didn't throw it away. I left the frame empty, hung it back in place. Not to mourn what was missing, but to remind myself what's gone doesn't need to be filled. It just needs to be named once, quietly, and then left alone. If they once erased your face from the picture, did you ever hang the frame back up?